as she said, I'm an evidential medium. I've unintentionally been interacting and communicating with them since I was a kid. Intentionally, I've been working and communicating with them since 10 years ago. My dear, anyway, and I'm 24, so I'm not that old, but still it feels that way when I say decades. So, what I kind of want to go over today is more, I guess if I list it out like properly, it's pretty much trusting yourself, understanding what your intuition is, and also understanding what your ego is, and how the two can kind of go back and forth, just to kind of screw with you. Anyway, so it's interesting because I've always trusted spirit world. Like anytime I've had someone step forward, I've trusted them. However, I'm sure a lot of you in childhood as well kind of lost that trust in yourself just because people told you you were wrong or you didn't know this about that, and it probably made you self-conscious and whatever, so you probably started not trusting yourself so much. That happened to me, so I actually stopped trusting my intuition when I was a kid. However, spirit world was just, which I guess makes sense because they're technically, even though we're all connected, they're still a different perspective. So I felt like I could trust that more just growing up and people telling you you're not right or anything like that. So I actually had a 6th grade teacher that told me my beliefs were ridiculous and I needed to grow up. Look at me now, I'm working at doing this stuff. But yeah, so, and I think defining intuition is probably the best way to go about this, because how else are you going to know? For me, my understanding and the work I've done, I understand intuition, psychic awareness, and mediumship, 3 separate things. So mediumship is where you're connecting to the spirit world, and where you're receiving direct communication from them. Psychic awareness is when you are connecting to a different person, or object, or place, and receiving that energy about that person, place, or thing. Now, intuition is where you're connecting to your own self, your own soul. And as one of the principles was, or what Juanita talked about was, we plan our lives out before we incarnate. So we have, I don't want to say everything is predestined because it's not. We have our marker points, basically. We have an end destination, and our intuition, I call it our spiritual GPS. I was so thinking I created that, and then I saw online someone else did it. I was like, huh, a little behind the times, I guess, but still. So I call it our spiritual GPS because before you incarnated, you've implemented, or not implemented, entered your destination point. Now that map, that GPS is going to give you 3-4 different ways to do it. You could say, oh, you need to get on the, I'm going to use the highways here. You can get on the 60, and there's going to be a traffic jam, so you might want to get off at that exit and then just take the main roads and then get back on after that. Some people think, that just seems too difficult, I'll just take surface roads. And then they're halted so many different which ways. So that's pretty much what, and intuition is very much connecting to yourself and understanding yourself. And we all interpret things differently. A creative person, someone who's like an artist or just creative in general, they're more going to get the visuals. So my friend, she's very artistic and creative. Her intuition tells her yes or no things by, I think it's Wile E. Coyote. In her mind, she will see Wile E. Coyote with that sign flipping around saying no or saying yes for her go ahead or go a different direction, which I think is really great. There are auditory people who you can hear your own soul. There's that higher self, which is just your soul. And the more auditory people, like if you learn best through hearing someone tell you how to do it rather than them showing you, you're most likely going to connect more to yourself intuitively by your thoughts and by the things you hear. So those musically inclined, whether it's able to sing or instrumentals, that kind of things, they're usually going to get their impressions or intuitive impressions through auditory means. Now with the, I don't know if I want to say emotional, but like sensory people, so if you're the kind of person that has to do things yourself to learn it, like someone could tell you, someone could show you, but it's just not good enough until you do it yourself, those are the more sensory people, and they're going to feel it somewhere in their body. They may feel a pressure in their head, they may feel a spine-chilling feeling, it may be like what most people say, a gut feeling. I don't like saying, trust your gut, because not everybody connects that way, and It just doesn't apply to everyone. But for some people it does. So that's why I like to obviously go over that. And the very left brain analytical type of people are the people that just kind of, it's just a knowing, like, oh yeah, that's probably not the best way for me, or I like this one better, I don't know why, but something about this is right for me. And so you really have to understand, one, how you are as a person to be able to, and which we think we know, and then we kind of go through all these self-revelations. I'm still learning about myself. Yes, I'm 24, but I mean, I really didn't start this self-awareness path until about 3 years ago. And because I didn't really know about it at that point. Like self-awareness and the intricacy of that and introspective work. And once I did that, because I had a lot of self-doubts, not in my mediumship, but in business aspects of it. Because I didn't know you could do this for business. I didn't know how to do it. I mean, and when I finally went to a training, there were mediums there that did psychic work, energy healing, all this other stuff. And so me thinking, oh, these are professionals that are doing it, you know, right. So I must need something like that. So I did have energy healings. No one scheduled those, which was fine because, yeah. But when I offered life readings, when I offered life readings, either people would not schedule or would not show up, or there would be a miscommunication, they wouldn't show up, or it would turn into mediumship right off the bat, because that is my strong suit. So I had to go through that self-awareness and self-introspective work to say, okay, this isn't working. And I had people say, you know, well, that's great, that's really good information about my loved ones, but I came to talk about my life. So that's when I was like, all right, clearly that's not how I'm being of service. So that is one of the synchronicities, which is also when we get too emotionally attached to an outcome, our own intuition is not going to be as fine-tuned as we'd like, because we have our own desire for it. Either we're afraid something's going to happen, or we really want it to happen, and we can implement that on our own intuition and override our intuition. And that's our ego. And, sorry, smoking is bad, kids. So, and I've just lost my train of thought, coughing. But, yeah, and that's where the ego gets involved. And it's so debilitating, and like I said, I didn't know about that until about 3 years ago, and the reason I figured it out was because I was getting a reading from this world-renowned medium, and she basically called me out saying, you have a horrible ego. And I was like, what? Because my only thought process for egos were, oh, so you think you're better than everybody else, you think you're the best, you think you're this, you think you're that, and you're just hot stuff. We'll go with that word, hot stuff. And I had no idea about that little ego that we've built up because of the remarks that people say about us, or like I said, you know, not trusting myself as a kid because of what people would say about my opinions. So I ended up having that little ego where it was, oh, you're not good enough in this respect, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you're just not that great. You need to work, and yeah. And that is the most debilitating thing, because not a lot of people recognize that as their ego. And I'm not a psychologist, I'm not trying to say that anything like that. I don't know psychology. But that's my understanding of ego, just from the training that I had there. And that really started me on my path to retrusting my own intuition. And I'm claircognizant, which means that I just kind of have information dropped in. I'm a very left-brain type of person. And I actually didn't trust that aspect until I started doing that really introspective self-work about 3 years ago. So all that information was kind of getting drowned out of like my readings and my own life, because I didn't have a reference for it. I wasn't shown it. I didn't have any sort of sensation or feeling, and it wasn't told to me. So clearly I was making it up, right? No, it's just a different sense that I wasn't aware of, and those self-doubts affected that aspect of saying, you know, don't trust this because you don't have, you know, you. I didn't know me. Now I do. But I can't say that it's not not a battle, but I can't say it's not a struggle every day, because as spiritual people, yes, we have a different perspective, and we have a different perspective of ourselves, and we have a lot of self-work that we've done on ourselves, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're perfect or we don't get angry. I love people who are like, you shouldn't cuss, you're supposed to be a spiritual person. I'm like, I'm still a human, and they still annoyed me. But I also take that as, why was that so annoying to me? And usually it's because it was a part of myself. It's a reflection of myself that I didn't much like. And I know that's kind of getting off on a tangent from the intuition, but it's those moments of, and it really isn't, because when I have those moments, it's that intuitive, like, oh, stop, think, why did that do that to you? And it's not so much, I mean, it is the self-work, obviously, but it's the fact that I finally reconnected to my own intuition to say, to more work for my life, my own life. And that's what a lot of people would say when I was younger, or anything that I saw on television or anything like that, is when you have this gift, you don't use it for yourself, use it for others. So that's another reason that I probably shut my intuitive side down for my own self. But since reconnecting to that, it's also shown me that the limiting beliefs I have and where they stem from. And it's very liberating. And I obviously don't say, first round, trust it, because you obviously have to figure out what's your intuition and then what's your ego. And the ego will always be a deterrent from you. Like, if you imagine the best version of yourself, that is who your soul is. That is who your soul is trying to move towards. Now, if you're thinking of that and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, but that's not realistic. Well, why do you think that's not realistic? That's your ego coming in, but that's yes, a part of you, but it came from someone else's idea. I was told by many people, oh, you're really good, but it just, it's kind of like an artist. You can't support yourself doing this. And, that's the mentality I took on. And that's the mentality I kept, and that's what blocked me from being able to really thrive as a medium, is that I was always told, it's great, but you'll always have to have something to support yourself. That's not going to support you. And the wonderful thing about these last 3 years is, from that training, I've met amazing mediums, psychics, and healers, and they don't have that block because they were reinforced with the fact that it is possible. I have friends who have month-long waiting, or not month, like 4 or 5 month waiting lists to get a reading with them. So it's very possible, and it's not just 1 or 2, and it's not restricted to location. Those mentalities were brought on me. I was told Arizona's not the place for mediums. Like, it's just not, it's not a very spiritual place. You should go to LA or New York or this, that, and the other, about different locations. I know mediums here that have thrived because they don't have that belief. Now, again, I understood where that belief was coming from and went back to, okay, that was ego, that was because of this. I know that that's there. So, go back to myself. And meditation is important with that, but sitting in meditation isn't necessarily the only way. Because anytime we think of meditation, it's sitting there, fingers like this, saying Om or something to that effect. That is what people's mentality of meditation is. And it's not. The point of meditation is to clear your mind and allow you to connect to yourself. And you can do that through numerous ways. Taking a walk, I do that at 3 in the morning. If you see me and Gilbert dancing around at 3 in the morning, singing, I'm sorry. You had to witness that. Please don't record me. That's all I ask. But yeah, I go for walks, and that really, just connects me to myself. There are people that writing helps. My friend, when she writes, she not only connects to herself to gain more awareness, like journaling, she starts automatic writing from her own soul. And if you don't know what automatic writing is, that is when your soul or the spirit person kind of takes over your hand and just starts writing out messages. But yeah, so there are so many different ways. Movement meditation, like yoga, Pilates, even going to work out, that can be a very euphoric thing to really connect to yourself and release all of the issues of that day even. Except if you're really mad and unfocused, do not go on the treadmill, you will fall. Trust me, I've been there. It was not good. Anyway, but yeah, so there are so many different ways of meditating, which is a form of connecting to yourself. And you really have to sit in both. You have to sit in what you're happiest in. Think of the things that make you happiest, and that is where your soul is. And I would suggest just sitting there for 5 minutes. If you can't hold it, try at least 2. But like 5 minutes of just sitting there, all of those happy thoughts, and realizing that is your soul. And then go to all your fears. Go to all the debilitating beliefs you have to really focus how that feels, or the thought process that happens in your own energy, to say, wow, that is how my ego feels, and it sucks. Because that's honestly how I learned, was I sat with myself and was like, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. And then all of a sudden those debilitating thoughts came in of, you know, you need to work at this, you need to do that, you're not doing anything right here, you should just stop, you should, you know, be realistic. And I was like, wow, I don't like you. And the mentor I had actually said, name it. Name that as a way of detaching from it, because yes, it's technically a part of you, but it is the beliefs that you've taken on from other people, which means that you can detach from it. So, and I found that to be great. I don't know why. And usually it helps, at least in my case and the people that I've taught, it's helped to pick a name that you just do not like, because it's easier. Just to have that detachment, because one, it's not the best feeling in the world, as well as it's a name you don't like, so it already has that energy to go along with it. But that would be my suggestion, just to really connect to yourself. And again, with the going to like the first few times, I wouldn't take it, I don't want to say don't take it seriously, but don't get disheartened if it doesn't work how you think it should. Because that one way may not be the way for you. I had to try many different things, and I thought I was terrible at meditation until I really found out what meditation was. Because if you're going to see in a bit when I do my walking, I can't sit still, I don't like it, so sitting there trying to just close my eyes and meditate doesn't always work for me. And that's why the movement helps, because it gets my energy flowing. So I would just suggest trying multiple things and not being discouraged at the first couple attempts. But if any time you say time, just because I'm not paying attention. But
2 minutes.
huh?
You got 2 minutes.
Okay. Are you serious? Okay. See? Intuitive.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
Something's off. Ask her. Okay. See, 2 minutes. Okay.
Exactly right.
So that's pretty much what I have to say, and it may seem like I'm all over the place, and I'm totally okay with that. That's how I talk, and no matter if I script it out or not, I just blurt it out how it comes. And that's, I mean, with my mentoring, with my teaching that I do, there are times when I do mediumship trainings and psychic trainings, but the focus for me is really working with the everyday person with their own intuition to really better their own lives. And that's kind of what I wanted to do here right now, was to really connect you to you. And obviously I've been through so many different ways rather than focusing on each of you. But 20 minutes and I've only got 1 minute and 2 seconds left. So, but yeah, so I hope that that's helped to maybe open your mind to different forms of meditation, or also different ideas of what your soul is and how your intuition works and what an ego is, and the fact that just because you may have an ego doesn't necessarily mean you think you're the center of the world, but it could just be something that's debilitating you from the beliefs that you've carried from other people. So that's what I got.